Hey, this is Alec. Welcome to White Whale Comics. I am a bit under the weather today, as you may be able to hear from my voice, which is very raspy and bluesy. But I woke up with an idea this morning that I wanted to kind of jump on. It's based on something I said in my last video about my most wanted comics, which was in regards to She-Hulk #1, which was that I don't buy books based on the fact that I expect them to go up in value, but I will buy a book that I want if I expect it to go up in order to buy it at a lower price. So I don't really consider this to be a spec video per se, because as I said in my very first video, it's not something I really want to focus on this channel. It's more about my love for comics. And so I'm taking that, or rather taking this video through that lens, and sharing a number of books that I feel like have the potential to be optioned or go up in value, that are really pretty affordable right now. I think they're all really high quality stories, which is why I'm featuring them, because I think that they are all things worth buying and checking out, and if you're interested in any of them, now's the time to jump on them, because I think they're all really good options to turn into a movie or a TV show or something, and as we know, that can really tend to drive the market lately. So I'd hate for any of you to miss out on owning these great books, because you find out that some company like Netflix or Hulu grabbed the license. So I've gone on long enough, rationalizing the fact that I'm doing a spec video when I really feel like I'm not. But without further ado, first book I'm featuring is from Black Mass Comics, 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. This has so many variant covers. I have 4 of them for some reason. I'm not a big variant cover guy, but somehow ended up with a bunch. Most of them are homages to movies. As you can see, this one's Bottle Rocket. But this is the A cover. It is a really great, charming story, very reminiscent of something like Stranger Things without the supernatural. Instead, it's a crime element, but definitely something I could see getting turned into a movie, but a really, really fun read. And even if you don't take this video to purchase individual issues, check these books out in trade, because I think they're definitely all worth reading. Next up is Archer and Armstrong from Valiant Comics. Valiant has seemingly jumped headfirst into the movie game. We know a Bloodshot movie's coming out, and as far as I know, that's the only one that's been officially announced. Maybe Harbinger. But I think this is a property that is definitely on the short list. This is number 0, which strangely enough came out before number 1, which was not the typical order. Zeros came out after number 1s mostly, as they were like origin stories and stuff like that. Frank Miller cover for number 1, but number 0 is the first appearance of Archer and Armstrong with this great Barry Windsor Smith cover. Next up is maybe a bit of a stretch, but still a book that I think is fun enough that something could happen with it, and definitely fun enough that you should check it out and read it. It's by Red 5 Comics. It's Atomic Robo. This one is signed, and this one is signed. Scott Wagner, the artist, is really charming, fun guy to talk to. I met him years ago before Atomic Robo #1 came out, actually. It's just a lot of fun. Really humorous, but a lot of action. It's kind of like a Indiana Jones meets Tesla-inspired technologies, and it's really cool. This is the first miniseries. They've done a ton of miniseries. None of them have been ongoing, I don't think, but this is the first one. It's 6 issues. Definitely worth checking out. There's been a lot of talk about Danger Girl lately, but I think Crimson, from another cliffhanger launch title, is another possibility. You know, I know vampires aren't the hottest anymore right now, with Twilight and True Blood being in the past, but this is, I think, a really underrated series, because I think Battle Chasers and Danger Girl grabbed a lot of the attention when these came out, but Humberto Ramos, can't go wrong with him. This is, for some reason I don't have the A cover, but this is the variant cover. Next up is a series I've mentioned a number of times, and I will mention it a number of more because I can't get enough of it. Descender #1. The only hesitation, there's one other book on this list that shares this hesitation, is that it would be incredibly high budget to pull this off. So I don't know the likelihood of it happening, but I mean, you know, with CG and stuff becoming cheaper and cheaper, and the stuff, you know, I'm more and more impressed with what they're doing with even television shows. And I think this is something that would definitely have to be a television show rather than a movie, just because of the breadth of the storyline. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Just read it. It's great. Next up is The Fix. I am honestly surprised this has not been optioned yet. This is hilarious and really fun, and you know, just about like these terrible cops in this terrible city who find themselves in like these crazy situations with a dog named Pretzels, who is really steals the show. And a lot of the subsequent printings, which I have a number of, which I didn't pull out of the box for some reason, all feature Pretzels, who's a little funny little beagle. But yeah, just like the tone of this really lends itself, I think, to a show, you know, like a comedic action R-rated type of like offensive drug smuggling type of thing. Yeah, really funny, really fun. Next up is from Boom Studios, Grass Kings. This is the Fiona Staples variant. Has a real like Ozark crime family type of vibe to it. So it's nothing like game changing, but I think it is familiar enough but original enough that it lends itself to something happening with it. But again, like I said, all these are just really good reads, so worth it. Next up is something that is being talked about quite a bit, is Solo #1. The art in this is breathtaking. I feel like if this is going to turn into a property, it would, you know, really lend itself to animation. This is the A cover. The B cover actually goes for a little bit more. Just charming and original and fantastical, and can be had right now at a price that is fair. Next up is a book that I was actually, when I was looking up prices for these, I was surprised at how much it's going for right now, but I still included it on the list because it's one of my favorite recent series. It's Kill or Be Killed. This is another one that I will just be absolutely shocked if it doesn't get optioned and turned into something, because it lends itself so well to, you know, a television show or something to that ilk. Or, you know, at least a miniseries. It's a story about this guy who thinks he sees a demon who tells him to kill evildoers in order to feed him, or else he's gonna kill the guy. And he's struggling with the fact that he's had some mental problems in the past, so he doesn't know if the demon is real. But I won't spoil anything further than that. It is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips never disappoint as far as I'm concerned, but this is probably, for me, their best series. And I think I've said that before, but... So this is another series that, much like Descender, would be difficult to do as far as a budget is concerned, but it's Maestros from Image. There's also a gold foil variant, which you can see is in just the letters. They did a number of these number ones for a little while that had this gold lettering. Just another really funny original concept about this guy who is on Earth and he has these magical powers, and he is actually the son of this crazy powerful wizard king, and the king dies and he gets pulled back into the other realm to take the throne. Just the tone of it, I think, really lends itself. But again, this is kind of a question mark because of the budgetary restrictions, but definitely worth checking out. A lot of fun, but super adult, not like, you know, pornographic, but, well, there's quite a bit of nudity in it. Next is from Boombox, kind of a dark horse pick, but Misfit City. It has a real Goonies vibe, strong female cast, and I think would lend itself tremendously well to either a movie or a TV series. And when I was looking this up on eBay, it was actually hard to find just a copy of number one. You can find the whole set for fairly cheap, but even those listings were few and far between, so I don't know how much this was printed or it's just not in demand, and I'm a loony bin on this one, but pretty good series. I enjoyed what I read of it. I actually didn't read the whole series, but so full disclosure, it might be terrible as it goes on, but felt like the acorn of the story was good enough to mention. Next up is from Greg Rucka, Image Comics, The Old Guard, number one. It's another one that had one of those gold covers, which I don't own that, but it's about these immortal assassins, I guess. It's really interesting. And much like Greg Rucka stuff, it just like unfolds as it goes, and it's a lot of, you know, spy talk and intrigue. This one may have actually already been optioned, I'm not sure, but could definitely be if not. Next up is one that is another real question mark, not because of budgetary restraints, but because of content. It's plastic from Image Comics, and this is the April Fool's cover swipe of the Amazing Spider-Man annual cover. It's about a serial killer who's in love with a blow-up doll. And yeah, it is as crazy as that concept sounds. It is ultra violent, ultra weird, but has a really good sense of humor at the same time. And I know that sounds weird, but trust me, it really finds a balance. Oh, thank you, Siren. I guess somebody disagrees with me, but yeah, I mean, with stuff like kind of reminds me of like a Santa Clarita Diet type of vibe, if you've ever watched that on Netflix, where it's, I mean, this is definitely more offensive in theory and in tone, but not, like, I didn't find it especially offensive, like, in the scope of things, but I have a pretty high tolerance for that type of stuff. So if the concept sounds like it might be offensive to you, it probably will be, I guess. But yeah, plastic. It's a mini series as well, so worth checking out. This next one is the only book on the list that actually is much more expensive than $10 or so, I think. This still goes for 40 to 50 bucks. For a while it was up in the 80 to 100 range, I think. But the crazy thing is, and the reason I brought this up, is because I still think it's probably undervalued, and you can get a 9.8 CGC for $75 to $100. So compared to what it costs for a raw copy, you know, maybe something worth investing in. Another one that would definitely take a higher budget, but you know, it is a rich and vast world that I think could definitely be capitalized on, and don't want to miss the boat and have it be a $300-400 book in a couple of years, and then not be able to own it if you like it. Next up is another one that toes the line of offensive, but again has a very humorous tone to it. Sex Criminals by Fraction Zdarsky, Image Comics. You know, it's funny because what is deemed as being appropriate is that line is really blurring more and more, which, like, I don't have a problem with. I think that we are too prudish as a nation. You know, you should not subject people to things they don't want to be subjected to, certainly, but I think if you want to watch a show about sex criminals or about a serial killer who's in love with a blow-up doll, I think that people need to get over what other people watch, because you know, there's so much uproar about certain things when it comes out, and I think it's just stupid. Just don't watch it. Wow, I went on a tangent there. Anyway, Sex Criminals #1, really fun read, humorous, and one of those books that you just want to keep reading the next issue and the next issue, I think. And then on to the last book I have on my list, another Black Mask book, We Can Never Go Home. This is, I misspoke earlier because this is another book that is $20 to $30, but again, a couple of years ago when it first came out, this was a $100 book because people were so hyped on it. And I think, and I've talked about the fall of Black Mask before, or the misstep of Black Mask. I think that really affected this for a lot of people. And this is another one that has just like countless variant covers. That's a second print, but yeah, that's the A cover. Story about a teenager who meets this girl who has superpowers, and they run away together, or try to, and it is just a really great story, and would absolutely translate to a movie. So that's my list. Hope you found something that at least sounds interesting and worth checking out. If not, worth picking up. And we'll see, I guess, in a year or two if I'm right on any of these, because these are all shots in the dark. I am just some schlub in my comic room talking. I have absolutely no insider information, and I don't pay too much attention to Hollywood reports or anything. So if any of these have already been optioned, please let me know that I am ahead of the game. But again, I apologize for my voice. I hope you found it wonderfully soothing rather than horrible and gross. But thanks for joining me. Never turn your back to it.